At a time when most video games were based on high scores and levels, one game would come along that would change all of that: The Legend of Zelda. It was released in 1986 for the Nintendo Entertainment System and was met with very positive reviews. 5 years later, with the release of the Super Nintendo, a new Zelda game would come along that is still considered one of the best Zelda games ever made. After Zelda 1 and Zelda 2 were released in 1986 and 1987 respectively, Nintendo would have the director and creator from the first two Zelda games return and start development on a new NES Zelda video game. But 1 year into development, Nintendo made the decision to move the game over to Nintendo's next generation console, the Super Nintendo. With the success of the previous Zelda games, Nintendo would invest a large budget and provide plenty of development resources to the new game's production. The team was able to create a very large world by increasing the storage space on the cartridge from 512 kilobyte to 1 megabyte of space. They would also use a compression technique that would bring the tile colors from 16 to 8. The tiles would be decompressed at runtime by adding a leading bit to each pixel's color index. The light world and the dark world were almost identical in layout. And to save space, the dark world would be stored in memory as an overlay that would essentially change the texture of each tiles when displayed. The game script was written by a video game designer who had previously worked on Super Mario Bros. 2 and 3, and the background story for the instruction manual was written by a newcomer to Nintendo. Koji Kondo, who is famous for his work on the first Zelda game and the Super Mario Bros. Series, would handle the game's music. He would introduce numerous scores that are still used today, such as Zelda's Lullaby, Ganondorf's theme, Hyrule Castle, Kakariko Village, and the Select Screen and Fairy Cave music. In 1988, Nintendo would write out a set of guidelines forbidding the use of sex, violence, and drugs in their video games. Nintendo of America would add to these guidelines and ban religious content as well. Due to this, A Link to the Past would have a few differences between the Japanese and North America versions. First, A Link to the Past was not the original name of the game. In Japan, it was called the Triforce of the Gods, but changed due to the use of the word gods. The sanctuary in the game was clearly modeled after a church, but all religious symbols were removed and the dialogue of the characters were simplified to remove any religious references. Plot details in the instruction manual were also changed, with the priest becoming known as a wizard, and any references to God in the background story were removed. When the game released in 1991, it was met with instant success, received very positive reviews, would go on to become one of Nintendo's best-selling Super Nintendo games of all time, and would sell over 4 million copies worldwide. It would last over 5 years on Nintendo Power's top game list and has been listed near the top of multiple top games of all time lists. A Link to the Past would receive a comic book adaptation that was published in Nintendo Power and appeared in 12 issues in 1992. It would also receive a 3-volume manga release from 1995 to 1996 and then a 1-volume release in 2005. In 1997, A Link to the Past would receive a sequel, or as some labeled it, a spin-off, since it doesn't even feature Link. It would be released in Japan only via Nintendo's Satellaview system. Satellaview games were broadcast over the radio to the Super Famicom via the Satellaview expansion. The games would be broadcast as weekly or daily episodes that only allowed the player to play so far until the next episode was released. After each broadcast, the games would be completely erased from the system and could only be played again during the broadcast. To finish us off, here are some quick facts for your enjoyment. A Link to the Past contains a secret room with 45 blue rupees and a note bearing a greeting from Chris Houlihan, who was the winner of a contest held by Nintendo Power. The room would widely remain a secret for over 10 years until the internet brought it to light. This was the first game to feature pieces of heart instead of a full container. This is the first game to feature Link playing an ocarina. However, it was only referred to as a flute in the game. The theme music from Kakariko Village was inspired by the music from the Japanese animated film Kiki's Delivery Service. Thanks for joining me on a brief history of A Link to the Past. As always, make sure to subscribe, click the notification bell, and follow me on social media. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Rod here with Zivivi Entertainment. Before I get out of here, make sure to check out Digital Break for some awesome content creators. Digital Break is a 1-hour block on local TV that premiered in April. They are taking talented YouTube creators and airing their content on local TV. So make sure to follow and like their Facebook page. Thanks everyone, I'm out.